Yeah.
Moving on up, moving on over. The PS4 slash PS4 Pro. I love my PlayStation 4. It's got a lot of great games on it. It's got on it, two of my all-time favorite games now have come from the PS4 generation: God of War PS4 and Nier Automata. A lot of great RPGs on it. It's a really well-rounded system. Uh, I can't say anything for the PS4 Pro because I've not messed with that at all. Um, it's as much as I love the PS4 though, it's like a B tier system to me because I think it's a fantastic game console, but nothing about it really hits me to the point where I'm overzealous about it. It's simply a game console to me, is what it is, and it has a great library but it has a great line of exclusives. It has a shit ton of shovelware, and yeah, I just I do kind of struggle with the PS4 and where I would put it.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. Okay. Well, for me, I I got the PS4 after the Wii U, and I immediately went back to the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the PS4 is the only system that I've ever sold games of. I don't do that. I like to keep the memories and stuff
Hmm.
of those systems. But the PS4, I just have no. It is a game system. I have no personal attachment to it whatsoever. Again, this is unfair, but this is also the system that I realized. I mean, more so the Xbox One, but this system was like the one where I basically saw the writing on the wall for my enjoyment of where gaming was going. Like, this was the real first, like, okay, I don't like a lot of the digital side of things and the constant need for you need to update the game before, like, all of this. To me, if you can't put the video game in to a machine without needing an update, um, and still be able to play it fine, then it's not a physical game. It's a key behind a digital game,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the generation that set that as the norm. And I really, really, really hate that because it basically killed physical media, even for physical media.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an issue for other systems now as well. It's not exclusive to this, but like this is the one that I really realized that I had great times on there. I enjoyed quite a few of the Call of Duties I used to play. I used to stream them and have a good time with them. And some but the wrestling game sucked on it, which was one of the things I was excited for it. Like, they bombed. They went from being good fun, you know, fun games for a wrestling fan to being genuinely upsetting to have to like play, and just almost everything about what the PS4 did I wasn't into. But then I didn't play all those big kill apps that people talk about. You talk
Mm-hmm.
about your God of Wars, your Spider-Mans and all of those. Like, it had them. There's no doubt about it. It had these like highly acclaimed exclusive games, which it did, and I respect it. So it is 100% better than the Xbox One. But I'll say this much: I love the controller. I think the controller is amazing. But like beyond it being basically used as exclusively a media machine for me for many years, I get precious little out of the PS4. Haven't turned it on in probably a year, and even that was for media, so not really my bag.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like, I think B is fair, but a lot of those issues I really hate, and if this was me, I'd be putting it in C at least. But I understand that's a very personal view on the games industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I feel.
Your thoughts, Dan?
I can really echo and agree with what Joe was saying about the state of gaming um, with the PS4 coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who collects physical, I can absolutely agree with that. Some of it is just in between, like, uh, I think it isn't beneficial to developers because I can't help but feel like they're, I hear you hear the tales of like crunch and stuff like that, and all these developers are, like sell it now and finish it later
Mm-hmm.
kind of mentality that was absolutely here with PlayStation 4.
Mm-hmm.
And still, even with that, they're at least, since it's kind of semi recent, I probably just need more time to reflect back on PlayStation 4's library because I mean, I think I have an okay collection of PlayStation 4 games going on, but I have a bit of a tougher time picking out a good handful of games that just like absolutely loved and that stood
Mm-hmm.
out to me because I like to think about that with every single system that we talk about. Um, I need to play Near because I haven't.
Mm-hmm. You
So
do need to play that. That's a
yeah,
fact.
I do need to do that. And I know that I had Spider-Man, which was like a dream come true game for me finally
Mm-hmm.
after waiting for something like that on GameCube. And Final Fantasy VII Remake was like a big deal for me also. But I have a tougher time picking out other things on that. What does stand out and that's special that you guys haven't brought out that I wanted to put more time into was I'm really thankful for PlayStation 4 for for me personally and for a lot of people still finally bringing VR gaming into the living room and
Mm-hmm.
the PlayStation 4 VR headset being affordable and just kind of just like a kiss or like a glimpse into the future of like VR gaming and making it accessible for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like when that was first coming out, it was like $1,000 and a high end rig to be able to have it at your PC. And they're selling the kits for like $350, $400, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. With your PS4, that if you're a gamer, you probably already have, that ends up working. Um, and yeah, still there's games out there that are tech demos and small little things here and there, but uh, at least Sony hasn't completely given up on it like they kind of have with other projects. They still there's still things coming out for it, and there's still rumors about like VR2 for the
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation 5. Like even Sony just said anybody who owns a PlayStation VR, we're going to send you an adapter for free so you can keep using it on PlayStation 5 because we want you to still keep using it over there.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me a free adapter for it, which is kind of reminds me of the time that Nintendo sent like free Wii remote jackets and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I have at least that kind of confidence from Sony themselves that they want to keep that going, and they still are like the most affordable headset, and it's like really comfortable, and I'm like really thankful for that aspect of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a C though? Not to me, it's
I'd
not.
say I don't think it's a C. I don't see it as there. I don't have any kind of worry with it like I would with 360. Well, the 360 had a good library. I don't have the it's gonna shut off on me tomorrow feeling. Um, Certainly better than the Game Gear. I'd put it above like the Vita at the very least. Um, I think it's a very well-rounded system, and I didn't get into the VR stuff just because like that I haven't had that experience with mine because I never got into it with that, and you can kind of see on my
Yeah.
webcam I've got a line of blue right there because I do enjoy my PlayStation 4. I've played quite a few games
Yeah.
on it. Um, it's it's a really good system, but I still have trouble finding I have trouble finding the personality behind the system, if that makes any
Oh
kind of
yeah.
sense. Like it just
Yeah.
feels like a system with a bunch of great games, genuinely fantastic games. A lot of the Sony first party games are great. Like I said, God of War is probably my current favorite game. Spider-Man was fantastic. Um, Horizon was a great game when it came out to the point where it was even being people were rivaling it against Breath of the Wild on release date. Like
Yep.
it has a great list of games. It just the system. I just don't know what to. I don't know where to put it. I don't know if
Yeah.
because like I think it has merits to be in A, but I think it should be in B. Because while it does have the shovelware, the games on it are genuinely good. It doesn't have a lot of the issues that, putting it in comparison with like the Xbox One has. It does have the issue of those discs behind me essentially just being install discs, not really a game disc. But I don't think that's fair on the PlayStation to knock it down due to the way the entire industry was shifting. Because I mean, we didn't put that in check for like the PS3, because the PS3 was doing that also. I think the Wii U was still fine. The 360 was also so the PS3 was like 50-50 with it. Some of the games were install discs, other ones the game was on the disc. The 360 was entirely install discs, which is why there was a lot of like double disc games that you would get with the 360, because you had a disc to install it, and then you had a second disc that would actually be the key to run the game. So like we didn't really factor that into those systems, so I don't think we should put a whole lot of weight on that for the PS4. I don't know about the PS4 Pro stuff. I don't know where that sits. The PS4 controller, until I get my hands on the new console's controllers, is currently my favorite controller. Right there beside, honestly, I'd put it right there beside the GameCube, in my opinion.
It is really good.
It's a fantastic controller.
Like there's like a second revision of it, you know? Like when it first came out, it was like really glossy. I prefer the matte feeling and the matte look.
Me too.
Over it is really good.
Yeah. So I just don't know if it's an A or B console to me, because I don't see flaws with the system, really. I don't have anything truly bad to say about the system, other than I don't know what I think about the system yet.
With so much downloading and stuff, like with the connection that I have, I guess that's my main gripe, is like the download speeds for updates. There's just some kind of speed cap over on Sony's side that just makes everything unnecessarily slow compared to my internet connection.
I think Sony's like capped at 60, whatever the number is, or something like that.
Games just keep getting bigger, dude. Like,
well, that's like a lot of people were talking about with the PS5. The PS5 has either raised that or removed that cap, so I know people were talking about that. But
dude, what was up with that?
If I just about the PS4, if you guys want B at the very least, I accept that. But the reason I will say with C and the idea of worry towards the system, and the speed of the downloads now, when you buy a game kit, you have to sit there and download that, and it's frustrating. But in 20 or 30 years' time, it could genuinely be game breaking, right? So in a sense, I view it as a potential ticking time bomb that at any point in the future, this system could become a paperweight. It's these original Xbox games, I'm going to be fine to play, okay, as long as the matter that makes them up doesn't degrade. With the PS4, and this is with all digital stuff, and the PS4 is the one that I noticed personally was so consistent with the amount of updates that it was like throwing at me, which, you know, in years to come, I'm not sure how accessible it's going to be as a system. If they don't choose to support it, it's gone. Like it's not useless, but in a sense it could become close to, because you won't be able to play all of those games. And I'm looking very far ahead here, because I think they'll support it for, you know, well into the 2030s. But
well,
like,
I can say,
and that's in terms of
there's still, and for that point, like I'm not trying to completely disregard your point, because I get where you're coming from, but like the PS3, the 2006 system is still supported for updates and downloads and stuff. As a matter of fact, I think they had an update for the PS3 like 4 months ago, because they were blocking one of the ways people were getting into the system and hacking it or something. But like, I do get where you're coming from, and that's, on one hand, that's kind of the good part about still having the discs, is while they may need a few updates, even once that's gone, and one of the big downfalls, I think, of the Xbox in this situation is there's still a game on those discs. It may install it, but there's still a game on those discs. There's a few games that would be issues with that, like regrettably, in my opinion, the Spyro Reignited trilogy. There's only one game on that disc of the 3, and then you have to download the other 2, which is absolutely ludicrous to me. But I mean, I do get where you're coming from. So if that ever got shut down and you threw that disc in there, you've just got Spyro 1. You've not got the other 2. So,
man,
I think they said the Switch port, though, does have all 3 on it, so that's a reason I might end up buying that. And yeah, when it comes to like digital downloads and stuff like that, I have started leaning more and more towards PC gaming in this generation because of that reason. My thought on it is, if I'm going to have to download a game, why am I playing it on my PS4 when I got a faster PC sitting right beside me? Because I'm much like you guys. I like my physical copies. I'd much rather prefer, and that's part of the reason I still have PS4 games over some of the PC stuff, is because I can get it physical, and I'd much rather have it there. But yeah, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I do. I don't know if it's enough of because we genuinely do not know at this point what the future holds in that situation, because
That's the issue. Yeah.
like I said, the PS3 is still supported, and that was a 2006 system. And as far as the PS4 goes, everything that it had currently is being pulled over and supported on the PS5. So you can pop a disc into the PS5, and it'll install the game. It'll get all those downloads and updates and everything. So it's at least, they're at least carrying that stuff over to the next system as far as that goes. I know that doesn't really matter much with the PS4 itself, but I'm just trying to, like, they're not necessarily cutting the PS4 yet. And it'll be
No,
we'll have to see what'll happen with it, is basically that.
I agree. I actually think there'll still be games being released. When I said into the 2030s, that's when I think games will still be released for ages for the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of like how accessible it was for developers to get games on there. It would seem silly for them to cut that. But like, yeah, it is. We don't know, and part of me acknowledges that I'm probably overly cautious about it, but preservation is really important to me, and I get it. It's it's a weird. It may be an overly cautious stance to take. I'll accept B, because I accept that there are tons of games people really love and seem to really think are great, like legendary games and stuff. So I'll totally accept a B, but I had to at least put the side across for the C, because that's just how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I understand where you're coming from on that, and I'm right there with you. I mean, all three of us, we obviously we much prefer the physical edition. We much prefer to be able to have the product we pay for in hand and know we can use it down in the line in the future. It's not just a temporary thing like music nowadays. I don't buy music anymore. I'm just borrowing music until they tell me I can't. So and I get that, and that's why I don't go out of my way to do digital games. If I can get it on a disc, it's on a disc. So at the very least, I can say I've got the non-updated version of the game. But it's I get where you're coming from on that. But I don't know because I don't know if it's the PlayStation 4's fault that the games industry is going this way, is my kind of thing, because it's a lot less restrictive than the Xbox is. because I don't know if you remember when the Xbox was first listed, they were going to do an always online. You cannot trade a game. When you put a disc in, it was locked to your system permanently, and it didn't even like. The disc was literally just a key. There was no.
Yeah.
Wasn't even an install. It was just a key to tell the system to go onto its store and download the game. I don't think the PS4 was quite as egregious in that situation because with how that was. So.
I agree in that, and not to get too much on the Xbox One, but that was definitely the one that opened my eyes to it, and I was aware of it from that point onwards. That these companies' goals and directions may be there, and the fact that they're releasing again, this isn't the PS4, but this is as a whole, they're releasing systems now at launch, all digital, is extremely alarming to me. But yeah, no, I agree. The PS4 is definitely only a half step to there, but it's such like a, it's okay. A part of it is me being sentimental 100%. But also, I don't know. The games industry's taught me one thing: is don't trust the company.
Yeah.
Don't trust them. So it is me being over the for sure. Yeah.
I guess my big part with putting it in B is as it stands, I currently have no true reason for me to look at somebody and say there's not a good reason to buy the PS4. There's a giant library of great games. It has there's a lot of fun to be had with the PS4 currently, and I can't really point at someone because as much as it does matter to us about preservation, there's a ton of people, obviously with the digital consoles being up for sale, there's a ton of people who just don't care about that at this point. And as much as that irks me, because I know, honestly, this generation, that's the PS5 and Xbox Series X are probably going to be the last generation of consoles with a disc.
Quite possibly.
There's a possibility they might still have one, but it's going to be like extremely limited, only for backwards compatibility kind of thing.
I agree. Yeah.
So I don't know. I say B. I don't know where I'd put it on B.
I'm with B too.
Okay. Yeah. I'm cool with that.
I don't know where I'd put it on B though.
I don't know. I'd say between somewhere around the PS3 and the Wii, because all this talk about preservation and stuff, like the Wii shop is turned off.
Yeah, the Wii shop is gone
right now. Yeah, I can't help but think about that.
True.
Guess we'll have to go with that. Alrighty.
Okay.
The Xbox One. I'm honestly willing to put this system in D. Because while we do have it's a powerful system. The system by itself I don't think is bad. There's nothing to play on it that I really want to play.
There's nothing on here I want to play except for like Rare Replay. That is like the one game I care about in its entire library.
The 3 or 4 specific exclusive games that Xbox has that I want to play is I like racing games, so I do like some of the Forza stuff. Sunset Overdrive is a really fun game that I love and wanted to play. Rare Replay. If they had ever put out a Fable game, I would have loved that. I actually had initially and this is going to be this almost makes me want to put it in shits because of this pissed me off. I had initially bought the Xbox for 2 games. I was completely content with it. I was going to buy it for Sunset Overdrive, I guess 3 games. Sunset Overdrive, the Forza games, and Scalebound, which got completely canned.
Oh my gosh.
And
thanks for reminding me of that.
Once they canceled Scalebound, I unplugged my Xbox. And it's been sitting out. It's been sitting out on the shelf somewhere out there for the last 3 years. But any game that I also want to play on Xbox, I have it on my computer. You can download it to your computer. And then it has the same issues with preservation we were talking about on PlayStation. So if you want to factor those in, that makes it even worse.
Dude, thanks for reminding me about Scalebound. Holy crap.
Yeah, no, see, that one game always makes me want to put it in shits, but...
Dude. That was like... I've watched so many different E3s and stuff. I'm like, I'm just like, there's nothing I care about in this whole thing. And then Scalebound's there, and I'm like, holy crap, look at that. A game that looks sick, that I would want a system to play this for.
And it's being made by Platinum, the people who did Nier Automata, a game I fell in love with. And then they did Astral Chain. Like, it was another game along those lines, which it would have... I assume it would have been fantastic. I don't know. It might have been bad, but who knows? Yeah.
Can I just the Xbox One, every issue that I have with the PS4, there's then no excuse of like the great games. There's no compromise with that. Again, you said that the whole DRM stuff at launch. I'm a huge original Xbox fan and had literally zero interest in the Xbox One. At least with the Xbox 360, there were some things that were like, oh, continuations from the original Xbox. That's a little interesting, even though I never went there. There's at least some things I'm like, oh, that's a bit cool and that's a bit interesting. But Joe hates, because every time I talk about the original Xbox, nobody has ever thought I'm talking about the original Xbox. Even when I say the original Xbox, you have to be in the know of that as being the new name for the system because of this machine. Why? It really angers me. I have no love for the system. I think it's really quite useless. But like, well, okay, you can play games on it and it works. So I suppose, if to a certain extent. But like, it took the one thing away from me. like no other game console on here feels like my life got worse because of it being released, and I don't play it. Like, I'm going to be angry about that for probably the rest of my life. The Xbox Series X is almost worse of a name. Like, that's even more confusing. I don't get it. The name sucks. It just...
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You kind of cut out there at the end, Joe. Say.
Oh no! I literally just said the game. I was going to... I know it just delayed a sec. No, I literally was going to give out about how much the name sucks, just literally on repeat. So whatever point you're making.
Well, I was gonna say that the name is so bad, even with like the Series X, that I'm sure you guys saw the screenshot that when the Series X was put out, sales for the Xbox One X went up like 400% because people couldn't figure out what they were buying.
That's quite clever. That's quite. I respect them more. You know what? S.
No. Well, it's the only thing I genuinely like about the Xbox is one of them, and I like it because I hate it, and it's the Xbox One S all digital edition, which shortens down to Xbox SAD, which is all I can think that really is. which is the feeling I described when they announced the console. Yeah. No, I'm it. On top of like, if I had to give it a genuine position, I would put it in D or shits. Like that'd be my genuine position for it. And that's why I have no problem with it going into Joe hates, which is under shits. But
because I do hate it.
Because Joe does hate it, and I knew when you put it in there, my thoughts were you said that we'd know which one it was, and I wasn't sure if it would be like one random system that I didn't know you had some like seething hatred for, or if it would be this specifically because of the name. So I'm glad to say that I did at least know that you hated this system.
I did. That's right. Just put on record now. Just let everyone know. Cool.
Because I mean,
there was no Blinks 3.
There was no Blinks 3. No Blinks 3 for Xbox One.
No.
I genuinely have nothing to say about the system that is a good thing. I have some, I can say like where it's mediocre at. It was mediocre on power at launch. It was weaker than the PlayStation 4. So they went ahead and they did the Xbox One X to try and fix that situation. It has an all digital edition. They're the start of that issue. They're the start of that issue. I have nothing good to say about the system. The only game that I genuinely can say is worth playing on that system to me is Sunset Overdrive, and that's because it comes from a Sony exclusive developer for one game they did. It came from Insomniac, the people who made Spider-Man. Yeah. So if you want to play Sunset Overdrive, play Spider-Man, because that's what Sunset Overdrive is. So that's all I have to say about the system. Do you guys have anything else to say?
Nope.
And for me, it's just Rare Replay, and those are prettied up, enhanced versions of games I already have.
Yeah.
I'm so annoyed at how much I would love to play Jet Force Gemini, not in 240p, with twin stick shooting. That's like an enhanced experience, but that's just behind this right now.
I know there was.
Yeah.
There was like slight talk of moving it over to Switch at one point, I guess. So at least it was like a rumor, which I was really hoping they would do, because honestly, I'd buy the collection again. I did buy it on when I had the Xbox, because that was before Scalebound was canceled. And so, and if they moved it over to Switch, I would buy it again, because it's enhanced versions of Banjo and Perfect Dark and stuff like that, like a bunch of fun Nintendo games that I'd love to go back and play. Conkers, and maybe if they did it, they'd even be like, oh, Nintendo edition. They'd put like Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah, they put DK64 in there. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I want that now.
Yeah, and if they had like great enhancements for Jet Force and being able to do controls. Like if they did that for DK64, give me the ability to switch Kongs like whenever I want, instead of like running to a barrel. That'd be like really exciting.
Genuinely. But honestly, the fact that the two games we can talk about are a collection of old Nintendo games and a game made by a developer that Sony owns should tell you what we think about the games for that system.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can think of one other tiny thing. Like, I waited for Phantasy Star Online 2 for 8 years. It was out on this Xbox for a few weeks before it finally came to PC. Like, that would have made me want it for a few weeks.
For a few weeks, yeah.
And then it finally came to PC.
Yeah. I've said my piece.
I'm happy with where it's at in the tier list.
Me too.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Me too.
Up next, the Switch. The Nintendo Switch. This glorious little console. Such a good little boy girl thing, whatever gender you want to put on it.
I have green Joy-Con.
I want different colored Joy-Cons, but I'm too cheap.
I like them being the same, so I was glad they released this set. They're the same.
Well, I want to buy different colors, so I don't have these two, but...
Oh, yeah, you mean more.
I'm just too cheap to buy more.
Let me have them in a pair of purple.
I'd love a pair of purple.
Yeah.
Did they not do that?
I think they have.
I think in Japan there was that Disney Tsum Tsum. I can't believe I'm referencing this. It's the fucking
Disney Tsum Tsum.
Disney Tsum Tsum game. It had like a pink and purple Joy-Con. Love how this is the beginning of the Switch.
No, I love going deep on that. Oh my gosh.
They may have. If I had to buy a purple one though, I'd have to buy it as a set, because I do genuinely love purple controllers though.
There's like a purple and like a I don't know how it's like a pink or like a coral, but like
Yeah.
the home button is like Mickey Mouse head, and it's got like these polka dots on it.
It's the, like I like the special edition looking Joy-Cons, like but there's always like some little touch to them that I wish wasn't there. Like I love the colors for the Animal Crossing Joy-Cons, the like green and blue, the like pastel green and blue. I wish it wasn't white on the back. I wish it was just fully pastel green and blue.
Oh yeah, it's like a beachy sand. I wish
Mm-hmm.
it was all one solid color. I have those upstairs.
Mm-hmm. And then like this, so I wish it didn't have Mickey Mouse on it.
It's got these polka dots on it too. Not as big of a fan of those. That's the shame because I like the shade of purple on those.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Joe. I didn't know about those.
Yeah, I know. I was really excited when they announced that one.
Yeah, no, I'm more willing to buy skins for my current Joy-Cons, but I also don't want to do that. All right, so let's talk about the Switch, not just
Oh my god.
random Joy-Cons. There's a lot to talk about the Switch, though. That, to be fair,
Yeah.
it is an extremely unique system at the point of recording. Maybe down the line in a few years, it won't be anymore. Currently, 2020, it is honestly it's as unique and Nintendo as I think a Nintendo console has gotten. Because Nintendo has always been held high in the handheld side of things. I don't think there's ever been any genuine competition with Nintendo in the handheld market. The PSP tried, but it didn't quite do it. And the fact that Nintendo took that side of their company and then just said, yeah, go ahead and play it on the TV too, kind of just skyrocketed this system. It made it like I said, it's the most Nintendo system I think Nintendo's done, honestly, because it still has that underpowered part that the last few Nintendo consoles have had, but it kind of has the excuse of being a fully portable system whenever you want it to be. And I think that honestly works for Nintendo. I don't know what they're going to do next. Like, I hope they surprise me again, but like I don't know. There's outside of like Joy-Con drift, I don't think there's too much I have bad to say about the system itself. I wish the battery was lasted a little longer, but that's any kind of modern screen, like even like cell phones. I wish the battery in this thing lasted longer, but like that's kind of just a limitation of portability in general at this point.
Yeah, they did up the battery life, right, in a revised
Yes,
That's right.
sort of iteration.
It's
So they
like,
did address that to a certain extent.
I think they added like an hour to 2 hours depending on what you were playing to it, which is fair enough, but I'm not buying a whole new system for that.
It's about twice as much.
Oh, was it twice? Okay.
I think it was twice as much, to be fair. Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I
So it
I think I
went
know
from
somebody
like
got one,
3
and they're like, "Oh, it's
hours
way
to
better."
6 hours. Very cool.
Yeah, which is actually a pretty significant jump. To be fair,
yeah,
it actually makes it like a feasible, legit handheld.
Mm-hmm.
I was really resisting the urge on with the Wii U and 3DS talk when the handheld and home console was merged. I was really excited because nothing irritated me more as a Wii U owner than the fact that the 3DS was getting all the games and the Wii U was abandoned. And when they announced that, and then the Switch was announced, I really have never been more excited for a console because I loved the Wii U and it felt like they were putting max attention on it. It was a handheld as well. But I would be a hypocrite if I didn't mention some of the digital stuff that came to plague the other systems at the time. This probably will be my last game console because of that, because depending on where it goes from here on out. But there's a lot of, it doesn't have the biggest storage. It's nice that they'd be using like USB-C and like, standard SD cards and stuff storage. Like, it's nice that they do that sort of thing. But still, there are so many games that require extra like storage and stuff that like it's plaguing this console as well. And I'd just be a hypocrite if I didn't mention it at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
But the games on the system are like it felt like for that first year, Nintendo was firing on all cylinders, and they definitely took the foot off the gas a little bit. But it's still there's always a good game somewhere, being released for the Switch, even if it's not a big AAA Nintendo one. It's like there's always something interesting coming to it, like and it brings the idea of the Wii being the best party game system. The Switch is pretty good as well. It has a lot of what the Wii did. It's just not as novel anymore. That it's worn off that little bit. But like even stuff like Ring Fit Adventure brings back Wii Fit. Almost that 51 worldwide club games or whatever.
Yeah,
like that looks. I really want to get that. That looks amazing. Like that. Yes,
nice.
that sort of casual, laid back gaming is. I really am a slut for that sort of gaming. But like, the Pro Controller as well. I really like the Joy-Con. I really like. Never had an issue with them personally. So, I don't doubt that the issues aren't there. But like, because there's just too many reports now.
Yeah, I have a set that drifts, and that's going to be going in my Ring-Con for Ring Fit Adventure.
Nice. Oh yeah, there you go.
I'll say I've had to replace my sticks because both of my sticks started drifting, and I've replaced them at this point. So.
Oh, are they working now?
Yeah. I replaced it. I've ripped them open and put new sticks in.
Dude, nice.
But yeah, I mean it's
good. But yeah, that's just generally my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think like kind of like I'd kind of said it during the Wii U where I wished that Nintendo had put more backing behind the Wii U, because I did mention that they were separating between the Wii U and the 3DS, but the fact that Nintendo is just on all cylinders at this point on one system is a big to me, because not since really the Game Boy have they since the Game Boy came out, they haven't done that. They haven't had just one system that they're just throwing everything at. And it excites me to even, because I mean the life cycle of the Switch is not over yet. We've still got another few years in it, and who knows what's going to come out in that time. It could be something amazing. They could completely drop the ball. I don't see them doing that though. But honestly, the Joy-Cons themselves are the only issue with the Switch, and that drift problem is horrendous on a lot of situations. I know, like you said, Joe, you hadn't had the issue, but Dan and I both have. That's 2 out of 3 people have had issues with it. I know our friend Unlikely Yusha, he's had connection issues with his, where his just disconnect from the console, and mine have started to do that. So like there's a lot of problems in those little Joy-Cons, but I think it would be wrong of me to say that doesn't hold the system back, because it does. I found myself very frustrated with those, but it hasn't stopped me from going back to the system. It's probably the only controller that I've gone out of my way to buy the parts for and fix versus just buying another controller of. It's like I've worn through like PlayStation 3 controllers and PS2 controllers, and instead of just going and buying a new stick, I buy a new controller. But like, it's, I don't know. There's a lot of fantastic games, and they keep coming out. It's got, well, the Wii U also had it. The Breath of the Wild is really considered to be the Switch's Zelda game. And I don't think did the Wii U do the DLC, or was that just the Switch?
I'm pretty sure the Wii U got the DLC. I think it was the last thing Nintendo like published for the Wii U.
Okay. But I mean, in general, there's a whole host of games that the Switch has to itself that are fantastic, on top of a lot of the great Wii U games being ported over. The library, like we're only like halfway through its life cycle. Maybe it might not even be that yet, and it's because if it goes like a typical Nintendo console, a home console, we're halfway through its life cycle. If it goes like their typical handheld, we're like a third of the way through the life cycle. And there's already a fantastic list of games to play on this system. Like there's And yeah, it has the shovelware, but if you're in the case of if you're a physical person, they don't publish that stuff physically. That's all just Nintendo eShop stuff. You can walk into a game store, you can look at a wall full of physical Nintendo games, and a good chunk of those games are going to be great. There's not much shovelware in that situation, which I commend. I know Joe had touched on some of the aspects with digital stuff in general. They kind of have the bonus of it being on a cartridge that keeps it from being as just install and download. They definitely have their updates because they do be pushing some updates, but it's not put the cartridge in, wait for it to install, and then go. It's you put the cartridge in and the game's there. Like that's what it is.
Yep.
So, you can argue, I guess, with it being underpowered, but that's nothing new for Nintendo at this point. And it has the handheld aspect of it to kind of back that up to where it's not really a problem, in my opinion. So, there's no game that I've put into the Switch and been like, this needs... Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a few games, but there's not a whole lot like that I think the console needs to be more powerful to play this game kind of situation. I know games with like the Hyrule Warriors, there's some lag that happens with those because of just how many things are on screen at once. But games like the Breath of the Wild, for example, it's a gigantic open world game. It's seamless throughout most of it, and I don't put that game in my Switch and be like, yeah, this console needs to be more powerful. Like
agree.
Yeah. So, all right, on to Dan.
I love this thing. It was the first Nintendo console that I got new through the mail. Because I managed to get an order through Amazon at like 2 a.m. So that was pretty fun and unique, dude. Like, and I think a lot of people's like standout and favorite games for a lot of consoles are launch titles. I think like Super Mario World and Super Mario 64, and like those games people are still love and are crazy about those. Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, is probably the strongest first party launch title they've maybe ever had. Like, it's astounding like how full that game is, and how it was such like it's a Zelda title which has its audience, but I feel like it widened the audience even more for like the style how this one played. There's like hardcore Zelda fans that I know that they still miss the formulaic way of the way things were, and they think this is too much of a departure, but I love this one so much, and it opened this up like just so many more people for the way that it played. Like that open world is just more familiar to like a lot of people. Yeah, I think it's possibly the strongest first party launch they ever had. I have issues with the Joy-Con, like I said. They'll go in my Ring-Con, so I don't have to mess with the stick. And I'm hesitant to use mine, you know? I use mine very rarely. I just freaking love the Pro Controller because I don't hear about people complaining about that one. Like I do Joy-Con, you know? And they come in at least, like... It's so fun how there's, like, so many variants of these things already. Like, the Joy-Con come in so many different, colors, yeah, but that the Pro Controller is coming in, like, different editions and stuff like that, too. I hope to see even more like that. Man, what else can I say about the Switch, you know? It's hard for me to imagine a future where, like, Nintendo innovates too far from that, because it's like they've always were the number one giant in terms of the handheld market, and now they've merged the two, and it's hard to see, you know, that marriage getting divorced, that they go back and split it off again. It's like, this is like it's hard for me to see it any different way now. Like it'll get split off. You know
Well-
what I was thinking when the Switch was first announced, and maybe some of you guys thought this too. Like when it was getting docked, I thought that there was like a special, like graphics card or something like that inside of the dock that like enhanced the graphics of it so that it ran awesome on the TV, and then it was just smart enough on its own. That's maybe how I kind of see the future of it. Maybe there would be some extra processing in it to have a beefier like on screen experience, and then still like play awesome in handheld. I don't know if that's it or not.
What if they come out with the DSS, the dual screen Switch? And only the bottom one's a touchscreen.
That's something that I think about and regret with Wii U Virtual Console. There was like just a few DS games. That'd be so awesome to have those on the big screen, and have a way to capture them and like share them with people and stuff like that. And now it's not as likely. To me, maybe you could have a Switch sideways and the bottom half is the touch screen and then the top half is still like that.
Yeah.
There's like some crazy wonky way of controlling it like that. Man, it has so many games I love already.
Yeah.
I don't know. Too many to mention.
Oh,
Smash
yeah, no,
Ultimate's big.
Oh,
Mario
yeah.
Maker 2.
Oh, yeah. It's got a fantastic library already, as I had kind of said. I guess on my point with the... initially when the stick started going out on mine, I didn't want to drop the price for a Switch Pro controller at the time, so I got myself one of these 8BitDo Bluetooth adapters, and I've played everything when I play it on screen off of a PS4 controller, just using that.
Yeah.
And that works fantastic for me. And I've since changed the sticks, but this is still how I play it on my screen. So I don't have as much experience with the Pro controller. I know I've used it when I was with Joe, and it felt real nice. I wish the D-pad was better, but
I agree.
Yeah. I mean,
Soda's D-pad is better.
Oh yeah. You got the one edition of it. What was the edition?
The Xenoblade 2.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about mine. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
for some reason it's got the peg in the middle, which all the other Pro controllers don't.
You were talking about Breath of the Wild, which I feel like, because it is that amazing launch title, and there's been very few in the history of any system, not just Nintendo's lineage, but all consoles, that has had an impact like that. And it like when that trailer, the one that they showed at the Nintendo Switch, like I think it was the January presentation one, I still go back and watch that trailer now. I remember watching it and like being legitimately emotional, crying my eyes out in college watching this trailer, because it was like, oh my god, all those idiots in school who didn't listen to me about the Wii U. Right, I was like, oh my god, the big dog is back, right? Like, because it was like the rise of the triumph of this old company, like a legitimate gaming company coming back and like smacking the industry and being like, yeah, we're still here and we are the best. We're still the best. But like my whole sentiment of the Switch, and I feel like what I take away from it, if I think about it, is it's a console for everyone, right? And everything, that whole meme. It was like, we've taken everything from all previous Nintendo systems. We gave the GameCube a handle, and we were thinking about it. And then like you kind of like we were talking about the Joy-Con, but like that's reminiscent of the Game Boy Color, right? The idea of these like they don't do any difference. They're just cool, quirky colors. Even the adverts, they advertise people in those adverts are kids, like from the right the way through to like teenagers, young adults, families, old people, like just everyone is targeted in this, like this mass campaign where they're like, right, we're going to get everyone back in and on board. And I'm in awe of what they've managed to achieve. There's everything is on here that you might possibly ever want, including stuff you wouldn't, like the Labo, the Mario Kart camera thing. Like, these are things only Nintendo would do. There's like okay, it's a bit of a naff one, but there's stuff like brain training and like big actual, more cool games like the Doom. I don't know if they brought Doom 2 out or not yet, Eternal, but like there's so much there for whatever type of gamer you are, and now it's been successful, it's being supported, which is truly like the only worry I had when the thing was released. I was like, well, it needs to get that benchmark for the support to come, and they nailed it by putting everything into that first year and just trying their best to get this thing off the ground, and they did it amazingly well. And then they were like, and then the third party started jumping on board, and it was like, oh, just amazing. I'm in awe of the system. I have so much fun on it. And yeah, there's just so many amazing games, and one of the best consoles, I think, probably ever, to be honest with you. The way it's innovated, I'd argue, is comparable to the way any of the consoles in S tier have innovated, in my opinion.
I genuinely love the system. I remember when it was first coming around, everybody was, I'd say at least everybody in kind of our situation where we're all big Nintendo fans, were kind of sitting there with bated breath, like worried to see what was going to happen, because we knew how bad that Nintendo had taken the hit from the Wii U, and we were all just sitting there waiting to see if they could make it. Like, was Nintendo going to disappear? And none of us wanted that. And like you said earlier, Phil Spencer has said, like, Nintendo is something that needs treasured. Like, it's a thing we need. And even I was kind of sitting on like that fence of, at the end of the Wii U, was like, would it be better for Nintendo to just make games? Because we know they make fantastic games, and we know they would make a shit ton of money if they were just put on the other systems or on PCs. But I mean, obviously, I wanted them to do their console, because that's Nintendo. We kind of need Nintendo. You don't get the fun quirkiness out of the other systems, and that's why, like, when I first started talking about the Switch, I said I think this is the most Nintendo system that Nintendo has put out, because yeah, it has all that. It has all the charm of its other consoles just like built into the package, on top of like Labo. Like, what other console company would think to do something like Labo, where you just, here's a bunch of cardboard, Frankenstein our game system into it? Like, like, it's such a fun system. And whereas like the PS4, I was sitting there having trouble trying to figure out personality of the system outside of it just being a good system, the Switch has so much personality. There's so much with it. It's a joy to just think about, whether you're playing it or not. There's something about it to bring a smile to you. My little sister wanted to get into gaming, and I told my family, get her a Switch. That's what she needs. That's the system for her. Like, I was like, that's where you go. It's got all the games for anybody who's just a casual gamer. It's got games if you want to continue up and become more hardcore. It doesn't have the issue that, like, where the Wii had it, as the Wii had its hardcore games in there, but they were far and few between in comparison to the shovelware and what was the just like casual gaming market, where the Switch seems, in my opinion, finds a really good balance between the two of them. It has everything that you would want in a casual market kind of game, but then you also get stuff like Astral Chain and Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey coming out there, and Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like, it doesn't hold back with hardcore games either. So I agree with an S for it, and it's not even, we haven't even seen the whole thing's life cycle.
Yep.
Yeah. Just on that point about you say your sister with the Switch, like, she wanted to get a console.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the amount of people who would have scoffed at the idea of getting a Wii U, who are like, I want to get this, like, I want to get this Switch thing. So many people who I would never have expected have picked one up. My nieces and nephew came round. Their parents have a Xbox One. Unfortunately, they came round, played some Mario Kart with me, some Mario Odyssey, and it's all they could talk about. Whenever they come, I don't think they care about me anymore. I literally don't think they care about me. All they care about is, oh, can we play Mario? Can we play Mario? It's like they're obsessed, and it's again, it's sentimental value, but like seeing my nephew, for example, playing Mario Odyssey and Mario Kart the way I would have been playing games as a kid is a truly like special experience that I honor, because I had the same experience with Breath of the Wild on the same console. Like that's just beautiful. Like I love it, you know.
Yeah, no, it's easily an S tier system for me. Like I said, we haven't even seen the end of it, which, like, is something I don't think I could say for really any of these other consoles at the time. Like, if we were halfway through the generation on any of these other consoles, I would probably say something like, we'll put it like high B and we'll see how the system continues. But like, I'm fully the Switch could bomb from today forward, and I still think it's a system worth picking up. Like,
yeah, agree.
So, I know they're not on this, but I just kind of, since we're all here, any general opinions on the PS5 and Xbox Series X so far? I know we haven't really had none of us have really had hands-on with them, but just from the very varied bits of what you've seen, do you guys have any thoughts on them? Just so they're kind of mentioned here, since they came out the beginning of the month we're recording this.
Well, it's worth saying for posterity that scalpers are buying them all.
Yeah.
I can't see me getting a PlayStation 5 anytime soon if I even super wanted to. Because
what a way to date the video. Scalpers are buying them all.
Well, I've already said, like, you know, it came out earlier this month, so
I figured that. I mean, I figured that was enough to set it off at the recording. Yeah, they had just come out. I don't think I'm personally crazy about the game launch lineup for either of them. I think this is like another situation for me personally where I'm going to be waiting a little bit to see what happens with the both of them. I am really anxious to check out the the haptic feedback on the triggers for the DualShock. That's making it pretty special for a lot of people. I can't help but feel like, they talk about like your gun jamming, like when you're holding down the trigger, and then it kind of locks into place. I can't help but wonder how many people I'm going to hear about where they'll just clamp down really hard and end up breaking it. I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not. But yeah, there's some games I've seen, videos of on YouTube and streams, and then it's completely different when I see it in person. I think I'm really going to experience that with PlayStation 5. I think I'm not seeing any high bitrate enough video on the internet in general to be able to properly translate how great things are apparently going to look on Series X and for PlayStation 5.
I from a personal standpoint, I literally don't care, and I'm not interested in any way whatsoever. There could be great games at this point. Like, I think I've made it clear where my stance is. Like, even the next Nintendo one, like, I don't, unless they have a mind-blowing thing. Like, I'm just really not interested with where. Like, there's so many old games that like I've not played that like I'm happy with. So there's that. But from a kind of like I don't know, from as objective as a point of view as I can come from, I think that they need to, and they're doing it. But these streaming services are probably the way forward for these consoles to really be. Obviously, this is away from my opinions. I'd rather have physical games, but for them, I think these streaming services are probably the future. And because we're starting to see streaming services now of like, oh, there's like a retro gaming streaming service that's been set up. I wouldn't be surprised if all like I know some of them are, but like just they get their streaming services, they put it on these consoles, and you like there'll be channels that you can kind of hop to us. You know what I mean? Like TV and film. I think that gaming probably will, and honestly, I think probably should go there for the. Obviously, I wouldn't want it there, but we're too late. I think we're too past that point now to the point of bring it back. So I think go down that route with that personally, and yeah, just honestly, that's it. That's I just don't care about them really, to be honest with you, at all.
Well, I'm interested in the PS5, and I know I've spoken with you about it, Joe. And I think the part that interests me the most is this is probably going to be the last generation of consoles that I'm like really into, due to the fact of physical media going away. Because once it's gone, I'll just play games on my computer. I'll have no real I'll have nothing that's really driving me to go out of my way to get a console in a when I can just play it on my computer at higher speeds and better frame rates. And I have no desire to go for the Xbox. It looks like a fine system as far as it goes, but I'm still kind of burnt out about the Xbox One. It's just Microsoft is definitely making strides to better the situation they had with not having any games with like buying out Bethesda and stuff, but I don't think it really makes the situation a whole lot better in my opinion. I like a lot of the Sony exclusive games, and that's the main reason I'm still interested in the PS5. The controller does look cool. I've seen people talk about stuff with the with like shooting games where there'll be tension on it, so it's like pulls back and then it shoots, and you can feel the hammer of a pistol when you fire, and yeah, it jams up and stuff. I too have concerns about that because I've seen people take apart those controllers, and every bit of the gearing inside of that is plastic, and that doesn't scream very durable to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see down the line. I'm interested in the PS5. I'll probably get one within the next year before 2021's over, but I'm not necessarily in a rush at this point to get one, but
Same.
I really just want Ratchet and Clank because I love that franchise. All right. I guess that's that. Hyperstrike or Hyperscan, whatever it was. Hyperscan.
What
yeah.
is this thing?
So it was a, if I'm not mistaken, it was a little, pretty much a plug and play console made by Bandai. Am I correct on that, Joe? Do you remember? I'm pretty sure it was Bandai.
Oh god, I actually don't remember. Might be. It might be. I don't remember.
Let me just pull this up real quick.
I don't know what this thing is.
It's terrible.
Spoiler. It's terrible. Yeah, so it was apparently it's a part of the 7th generation console.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
It was released in October 23rd of 2006. It was discontinued mid-2007. If that tells you. It's
This is way newer than I thought. What?
Yeah. It it had 7 games announced for it. It had 5 games released. And the big gimmick of this thing was it came with cards, like the Amiibo Festival cards, and you would scan the cards. It was essentially early Amiibo. You would scan the cards, which is why it was called Hyperscan, and it would pretty much do what like Smash Bros. Amiibo stuff does, where it moves characters around and information, and that was its entire selling point. That was the selling point of it. But it would you would buy the game, and then you would buy separate trading card packs of characters to use in those games. And I mean, it's a shits tier system. Let's not kid around. It's the controller is the shape of the PS1 controller, the pre-analog stick controller, but instead of a D-pad, it just has one analog stick and 4 buttons on the other side. Absolutely terrible console, and it was made by Mattel, not Bandai.
I was thinking Mattel.
Yeah.
Yes, because they're toys. I was thinking, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah.
The console is horrific. The load times are terrible. The NFC technology, if it even can be classified as such, was nowhere as sort of smooth or user-friendly as later NFC games like Skylanders. It looks, graphics-wise, which isn't always the most important, which is why I was shocked it was a 2006 release. I thought for sure this was 6th gen, but like it doesn't look very good. I've never had anyone say, well, I've never had anyone talk about the hyperscan. But like, there's no reason to get this other than cool oddity, but like doesn't even work. So as you said, shits in terms of those consoles that don't really work, I'd throw this in there. No personal use with it, but it just, I mean, terrible. Why is this?
Mattel is like, we really knew what we were doing with the Power Glove, and we know we did it right, and people love that thing. We can make a whole console.
Yep. I mean, I genuinely do want one, but simply for the fact to say I have it, not because I want to play it. But yeah, I mean, it's genuinely a shits tier console. The fact that even Dan didn't know what it was, I think should...
Yeah.
And I try and me to know,
Yeah.
I will say in the Hyperscan's defense, which is a sentence. No, I'd be saying, but the idea of selling video games with especially NFC and stuff was ahead of its time, and the idea of it being a toy or something to play with beyond that is something that has worked historically with the Nintendo Entertainment System. That was the whole gimmick of selling that, right? So it's not entirely brain dead from an idea standpoint, but it doesn't work. So, there's that. So, yeah, I agree.
Alrighty. And, I mean, I guess I should say these last three are just joke consoles I threw in because why the hell not? I think that should be obvious. Yeah, that was your first thing. You're like, is that the Hyperscan? Why is the Hyperscan here? The Ouya.
Oh, I wanted to believe.
I think we all wanted to believe. I think when it was first announced, I think everybody was like, you know what? That's an okay idea.
Oh my god. We all wanted. The thing is, I wanted to believe as well. I was like, PS4 and Xbox One suck. The Ouya is going to go in and kill him, right?
Hell yeah, I will play my smartphone games on my TV.
No, I had to fact check this because I thought it was something related to them, which is why that came to mind. There was a note in the box when you open it up that says, "Thank you for believing."
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was a Kickstarter, right?
Yes.
Like one of those
yes, it was.
And like,
So it's the people's fault.
well, like at the time, I think it was a solid idea. Like, it was it was basically just trying to move the Android games market to a small box you could play on your TV, which I think was a fine idea. The biggest issue with it is once it finally released, you could just, I mean, consoles were at that point starting to add in the small indie games and stuff like that. It just kind of lost its individuality, I guess. And I know that if I remember right, they had some deal they were trying to set up with indie game devs to where they would make exclusive indie games for the system, but that just never panned out either. So like it kind of had this line of, when it was first announced, like, oh, that's something kind of cool. Maybe I'd pick that up. But then it just, is the day it was released, pretty much, it immediately fell to like nothingness. And I remember the people saying like the controller was pretty trash too, which, looking at the picture, I can kind of believe that. But so,
aren't the face buttons? Don't they say Ouya on them? I can't really remember.
Yes, I think they do.
I think I'm not even sure if I've even gotten to touch a controller. Yeah, but I almost feel like I did, and it really was like flimsy trash.
I remember seeing it on store shelves for like $20, $30, something like that, and being tempted to pick it up. But that was before I was like collecting, kind of in my collecting mood of stuff. Otherwise, I wish I had, because I'd love to have that as just like, look what I got. I got Nuya, But yeah, just a stupid.
Now the best thing it's good at doing that is being a punchline.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they use this controller for a Switch controller? Didn't they like repurpose the controller, got rid of the silver plates and put a blue and red one? Or am I not remembering this right? I
think they did. I think you're correct that it was like a knockoff Switch Pro controller that they put it out as. Mm-hmm.
In defense of the UR,
another sentence, right?
Because we're going there. I'm actually really, as a game console, I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. But this basically turned televisions into a smart TV / Kindle Fire Stick, Roku, and all that stuff. Before that, it really hit off. So, from not actually the worst. This is genuinely an idea that like is something that could work. It was just done terribly, and in the end, it was like the media was the thing people, because you can play games on a Fire Stick or a smart TV, but they're usually not very good. Like it's Frogger or something like that, which I think is ultimately the fault, because if people want to play games, they don't want to play them using it. Like it's just that they want to play a proper game, right? Or they want to play on their phone, because by this point, a lot of people had their smartphones anyway, so they will sit there and play on it whilst watching the TV or Netflix or whatever, right? So I don't think the idea is that terrible. The execution I can't speak of because I've never used one. Although I did see loads discounted, so they were there, and I remember it being pushed very hard. It felt like, oh my god, they're getting like space in game. I'm like, is this like? I was quite interested, but it went nowhere. But again, I'm kind of like slightly impressed with like the kind of site that they actually went with the UR.
Honestly, I don't want to put it in shits. I kind of want to put it in D, because I mean it did work. It was a working system. It just wasn't like it.
You can get some functionality out of it today.
You can hack them and emulate. Like, tons of people put loads of emulators on them.
Oh, yeah, and wasn't it like that? Like the second launch too.
Well, I mean, it was just Android hardware, so you could essentially go in. It had access to the Android Play Store. You could go in and just immediately download the emulators that were on that Play Store, and just play them off the system like day one. So,
and cheap,
yeah. So, I'll put it in D, because I don't. It's it's a thing.
Honestly, I'm like just hearing myself talk about this. Like, see, boys, like I know this was a meme console, but I want one now. Like, I want an Ouya. Like, it sounds pretty good.
I do want an Ouya, but not to play.
I believe.
But like the emulation aspect of it would be a cool thing. The only thing that like kind of leans me away from that is my Wii U is honestly my emulation console, because that's homebrewed. I've got all that. Any of that I would want on it is already there.
Yeah.
So I would have no use for the Wii U. Ouya personally. So now here's one I know neither of you know about. This is the V-Smile TV. It's made by
Is this like a little education?
It is. It's an edutainment system.
Yeah.
And it is actually one I had in my house as a kid.
Wow. What happened?
I guess for starters, it's like on power, it's like half a step above the SNES. But it has one of the most interesting controllers I have ever used, and you can kind of see it in there. Let me see if I can I'm gonna get a picture of the controller, and I'm gonna send it to the group chat.
It looks like a conjoined twin between like a mouse and a joystick. To be honest with you, from the small image I can see.
There, I sent it in the little group chat.
Oh my gosh.
I genuinely love the shape of this system. I'll be honest. It's like funny looking. But that controller there, it has the joystick, one giant button, and then 4 colored buttons. And so everything that was on this was pretty much 2D side scrollers, and you just jumped, moved, and then you used the 4 buttons to like answer questions and stuff. But the most interesting part about this thing is on the bottom of the controller, where the blue section is, there's a switch. You can pull the tab, and you can slide the analog stick to shift it to the other side, so it could work as both a left and right-handed controller, and it would shift where it was at. And I always like, it's stupid, but I always found that to be the like most interesting little thing in a controller ever. Like, it was a left and right-handed switch controller. Like, it was cool. And on the back of the console, there's that little purple section. That's your storage for your tens and tens of games you would own. By tens and tens, I mean like 3, because I don't know anybody who would really buy too many edutainment games. Yeah, no, I mean, as far as like games library, it doesn't have anything truly fun to play. It's got the edutainment style games. It came with a game that was like Park something, where you would wander around this. It was like 5 levels total of side-scrolling platformer, and you would walk through the level and like dodge jack-in-the-box things popping out of boxes, and they were like essentially piranha plants, and you would get to the end of the level, you would answer a few questions, and it'd be like, congratulations, and you would go to the next area, which was like a Balloon Boy level, where you're on balloons floating up and down like the water levels in Donkey Kong Country. And yeah, it was, I mean, it's a shit's console. I guess it works, so I'd say it's at least D, but like, I love the controller of that thing just because it's so interesting to me. And
it's unique for that.
Yeah, it's so unique to it.
Was that controller hardwired into it, or
no? It could be unplugged. It could be unplugged. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to say, by the looks of it, it looks like the Infinity Gauntlet, the controller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of look like that.
Like a Thanos penis by the side of it. That's amazing. I want to see if VTech have a lawsuit.
I mean, this came out way before then, so.
There you go.
All right, we finally got through all of this. This was almost 3 hours of recording just today, on top of the 4 hours of beforehand. So, how you guys feeling about it all?
Like I didn't waste my time at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that the first like collab I brought both of you guys into was a 7-hour process of just talking.
Oh yeah, it was a big time investment, but I really like talking with you guys. This is like, I love video games, and it's good to be talking with other people that have a shared interest in the history and what's good. about them and sharing experiences. Yeah, I like even just this last session, I just had a smile on my face like the whole time, just talking about this stuff I love so much. So, thank you for thinking about me and asking me on.
Yeah,
I can't follow that.
I will say, like, I've actually kind of enjoyed listening through the audios, editing this stuff, because like I've laughed back at a few things that like you both Dan and Joe have said, and like I know I'm gonna laugh about some of the stuff that goes through this too. Like just re-listening to us talking about Pong was an out of body experience to me. But
Today, dude, 48 years ago, was it? Yeah, 48 years ago to the day, man. It's so funny.
But like I've also got to say, like, I realized going through this, while I am genuinely a Sony fanboy through and through, nothing Nintendo is under top of B tier for us on this, or well, in B tier at least.
Wow.
And every single system out by Nintendo, we've all given some kind of story about. We've had some kind of conversation about. We've talked about where we've poured our love into each of these systems by Nintendo at some point, and how each Nintendo system has been a part of our lives. And like I can say that about the Sony consoles, some of them. Like even like with the PS4, like I said, I didn't quite know where to put it. Like PS3 even with that, but like just going through this has made me realize just how much I love Nintendo, and I don't think I had ever really put that into perspective before now. And yeah, it just Nintendo really is a treasure. And
That's
Atari sucks.
Like even just talking about the Switch again. See, it's
the
only
2600 is fantastic. Every other Atari sucks. Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Defensive.
Go ahead. I know.
I agree. The appreciation for Nintendo is great. Like even, I don't know if it's for everyone necessarily all the time, but I feel like if you get a Nintendo console, you may not think this is the greatest console ever, but you will almost definitely have an experience with it, and you'll have an opinion on it. And generally, it's quite positive, really. Like I love every every Nintendo console I've played. I can't think of one that I'm like that sucked. But like just overall, to bring it back to this podcast series, I've loved coming on here and shooting the shit. And talking about games and stuff. And I discovered a few things about myself during this whole experience. Discovered that I feel very passionately about Pong.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't know that one either. So it's just been great fun. And the 6th gen systems was the best idea ever, because there's no way I would budge with the Xbox. Or even probably the others, to be honest with, maybe the Dreamcast, but let's not get into that this time.
we have a whole 50-minute episode coming out about that. Like it's not out yet, but it will be before this, obviously. But
yeah, I've loved being on. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate this. It's been great vibes. And just had a blast, guys. Had a great time.
I genuinely appreciate both of you coming on, just because this has been a time sink. This is 7 hours of us talking, and I've enjoyed all 7 hours of it. Like it's been a genuine blast listening to even some of the stuff that like I don't know about some of these consoles, hearing it from you guys, getting your perspectives. Like that's why I wanted to bring you both on, because I knew that both of you had your understandings of the consoles and the history and your loves, and like I'm happy you guys were willing to come along with me on this and put up with all this time. So Yeah, go follow Dan and Joe. They'll be linked up top. They'll be linked down below at the end of this thing. Like, show them some love. Dan makes fantastic videos about video games. Joe makes interesting videos about stuff. Once upon a time, Joe made interesting videos about stuff. There's a really interesting video on his channel called "Enthusiastic Bouncing Boob Lady." It's quite the it's quite the video. You should all check it out. Thank you all for watching. If you've made it through 7 hours worth of listening, goodbye, all.